Welcome back, and joining me with more insight on the day's trade is Shaun Dendere from Trive Investments. Thank you so much for your time, Shaun. It's been a weird week with Trump at NATO and people calling him daddy. But but yeah, we still have to go through what's happened in the markets and all the economic data that's come out. And actually, China's industrial data for May has been released, and profits there took a knock, the largest monthly decline since October. What is this pressure signaling?
First of all, thank you for having me. As you said, it has been an interesting week in a sense, and it's also been an interesting time. So if we're looking at China, right, so China for a very long time has been struggling to reignite that economy since COVID ended. I mean, they had the longest lockdowns at the time, and they tried to implement, stimulus packages and so on and so forth to reignite the economy. Looking at this, industrial data, it seems that the stimulus package really isn't taking into effect like how they anticipated. But also at the same time, we are also going through that period of the trade wars that has applied pressure on China. And looking at the data coming out of China is quite interesting, because if you look at, the retail numbers, they actually came out quite high last month, if I'm not mistaken. But if we look at it from a nuanced perspective, the pricing of the goods is actually really low. So as much as from a retail perspective, it looks like things are, looking up, but, from a pricing perspective, companies are really not making money. And then in this extension, those production and industrial numbers are still declining.
Yeah. Well, as you talk about trade wars, there's been news or hints that have come out that the can could be kicked down the line and forward in terms of the tariffs. Of course, we were looking out for the 9th of July. That was supposed to be the deadline for the 90-day pause of the tariffs. Are the markets preparing to celebrate? Because even now you look at the S&P 500, it's trading at or near record highs.
So if we're looking at, the tariff conversation that we've been having, I think the market really is pushing forward based on, a bit of an ease on that geopolitical tension perspective. And then we see that Donald Trump did mention that they're potentially looking to extend that deadline. I do believe at this point in time there are bigger things at play, as we can see, the NATO meetings, the geopolitical tensions, and that's what seems to be the focus at this point in time. Hence, I think that, they are kicking the tariff ball down the road. I mean, I did learn an interesting term that's called taco, Trump always chickens out. So I guess, this is part and parcel when it comes, to the tariff conversation that we have. So this week, looking at the markets, I think let's more focus on, the narrative that's coming out that, yes, we might, kick that, we might extend that deadline, but more importantly is the easing of, that geopolitical tension that we are witnessing.
All right. Well, let's get into some of the company news that came out of the JSE. ABSA came out with an interim trading update. And of course, since we had the disappointing trading update from Nedbank earlier on in the week, where the share plummeted about 7%, investors are closely watching what the other banks come up with. And so I actually did see the ABSA stock climbing almost 3% on the day. Does this mean that the numbers were satisfactory, or they surprised to the upside?
I think for me, it's more of a stability type environment, as we've come out of, well, not really entirely, but we're coming out of that environment where inflation was high, interest rates are high. So, the banks were making a lot of money from, the high interest rates. That has kind of lowered, but we look at, the numbers that ABSA is expecting going forward. There is still growth coming on their books, whether be it single-digit growth. And in this environment where GDP has been revised down, all the uncertainty and so on and so forth, I think it is quite a steady ship, and that's why, in my opinion, is that the market is reacting positively to that.
And quite interesting that you mentioned that they are seeing growth, because with Nedbank, it seemed that things are expected to flatline. Well, let's get onto your stock pick for today. What are you choosing?
So today I'll be choosing quite a risky one. I am taking an international stock, and that will be Shell PLC. There is rumors that Shell will be taking over BP, as much as they are denying it. But once rumors like this tend to come out, over time we see that that'll. Sometimes it tends to happen, and it'll probably be one of the biggest oil deals to happen in the past decade. So in the long run, as a long play, if that deal goes through, I do foresee massive shoot up in the price of Shell, and currently, it is in the green based on, the rumors and so on and so forth.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time and for your insights on what has moved investors' money today and this week. Shaun, that was Shaun Dendere from Trive Investments.